Today, I'm going to teach you how to float. If you're looking at improving your confidence in the water, in this short video, I'm going to share with you a few tips so that you can go from standing to floating and swimming on top of the water. Now, the very first thing, safety first, so make sure you're swimming in a pool with a lifeguard, you have supervision, and if you've never been in the pool before, make sure you start slow. Feel free to rewatch this video and share it with friends that you think will find it helpful. Now, the very first thing that you need to keep in mind is your confidence and comfort in the water. You can't really be agitated and tense when you're in the water. It's gonna be really, really difficult to float and swim on top of the water. So the very first thing is just to be comfortable. When you slide in the water, take your time. If the water's a little chilly, kind of move around, get your heart rate up a little bit, and then you wanna be really comfortable, you wanna be relaxed. Now, the first thing you need to do is blow bubbles out of your nose. So this is very similar to humming. So if you can hum with me, go ahead and hum. Just go ahead and hum. Very good. So we're gonna do that in the water. So we're gonna start out really, really slow, and I'm actually gonna tilt the camera down so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. So the first thing, humming. We're gonna start above the water, and then we're gonna go below. Here we go. As you can see, I could keep my eyes above the water. I was looking at you guys, and I just started humming. This is the very first step. You need to be comfortable blowing bubbles out of your nose, because when your face is in the water, you're not just holding your breath. That's a big misconception a lot of people have about swimming. You just hold your breath when you swim. The reality is you're always exhaling, and then when you lift your head up to breathe, whether you lift it up or to the side, that's when you inhale. But when your face is underwater, you're actually exhaling. And the more you practice, the more controlled that's gonna get. So let's try again. I'm gonna go ahead and hum, and I'm actually gonna go a little bit deeper this time. Woo. Water feels good. So as you can see, the more comfortable you get and the more you do this, the easier it's gonna be. So now we're gonna start with the actual float. So I'm gonna separate myself from the wall, and I'm gonna have my hands kind of like I'm frosting cake. So I'm frosting the top of a cake with frosting with my hands. Just gonna have a nice feel, and I'm gonna very gradually just lower my head into the water, and I'm gonna try and look at the bottom. You don't have to open your eyes. If you have goggles, it makes it a little bit easier, but you don't need anything. I'm just gonna blow these bubbles, and I'm gonna do it for 5 full seconds. Here we go, count it out for me. See that? It's not about holding your breath, it's about blowing bubbles out of your nose. And it can be out of your mouth, but out of your nose is best. I never left my feet off the ground, so I basically had full contact with the ground. Now the next step is, once I'm comfortable with that, I'm gonna lift one leg off of the ground. As you can see, I can stand here right now. It's just only about 1 meter tall, and I'm almost 2 meters tall. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my face in the water, and I'm gonna hum, and I'm gonna put one leg off the bottom. Here we go, for 5 seconds. So I got almost my entire head underneath the water, and I lifted one leg. Now I'm gonna get both feet off the water, and I'm gonna put most of my body, most of my head underneath the water. I'm gonna focus on looking down, getting my hips up off the ground. Here we go. 5 seconds, here we go. Woo! Making progress. As you can see, I started sinking a little bit, but that's because I wasn't moving and I was exhaling. So as the oxygen leaves my body, I'm gonna start sinking. And the way we can combat that when you start to swim is actually by making forward progress and starting to kick a little bit. So we're gonna combine the floating, and then we're gonna take it all the way to taking a first stroke on our stomach. Then we're gonna flip it onto our back, and I'm gonna show you how you can do this on your back. So the very first thing is I'm gonna be on the wall. I've got the wall right next to me. I'm gonna sink underwater. I'm gonna blow those bubbles. And then after I blow those bubbles, I'm gonna push off the wall very slowly. I'm gonna have my arms above my head, and I'm just gonna float. Again, I'm like frosting the icing on the cake, and that's gonna be my sculling, just to keep myself stable and balanced. I feel really comfortable in the water. I've been in the water for a couple of minutes now, and I'm ready to put my full head under, and I wanna be right on top of the surface, and I wanna just be floating with a little bit of a kick. My legs are straight. Here we go. So I'm gonna put it all together. I'm gonna start with my hum. Very good. And if I wanted to get my breath, I can just pull myself up. So I'm right here, and I don't want to feel like I'm sinking, so I can just push with my hands, and and then I can stand up. It's really important that you stay in an area where you can stand the entire time. So that's the front. Now I'm gonna flip it over onto the back because I think it's really important that you can do this on your back as well. For some people, it's actually easier. And the way you do it on your back, instead of humming, you're gonna keep your eyes, up, and you're gonna be breathing the whole time. But it's really important that you bring your belly button to the surface, because if you look at your feet, then your butt's just gonna sink. And it doesn't matter your physical build, how muscular you are, or how, it doesn't really matter what your body density is. You have to make sure that you keep your head back, and you wanna look at the sky if you're in an outdoor pool, and you wanna look at the ceiling if you're in an indoor pool. So I'm gonna go ahead and lean on my back. Now I'm frosting the icing with my hands, frosting the cake, and I'm just gonna lean into my back, and I'm just gonna put my ears underneath the water. And right now, as you can hear, I'm still talking to you, and the water line is at the middle of my head, and I'm trying to push my belly button up as high as I can, and then eventually I can lift my legs up, and then I'm gonna float. Now, as a male and as a more muscular person, I sink pretty easily actually, but it doesn't really change the fact that you can float if you have the right momentum and you have the right balance. So even if my legs are sinking, if I push my belly button up and I try and keep my chest up and I keep my eyes back and I'm looking at the sky or the ceiling, it's gonna be a lot easier to float. So let's try it again. And I'm just gonna float on my back. I'm gonna lift my hands above my head, that actually helps. I'm gonna lift my knees up, try and get my belly button to the sky. I'm pushing my belly button. My legs are starting to float a little bit. And having your hands above your head actually helps. It helps balance out and spread out your body. So as you can see, I'm struggling a little bit, but if you can get yourself a little bit of a push off the wall, it'll make it that much easier. Let's go ahead and try it. So I'm gonna put my belly button up, head back, and I'm gonna push off the wall with my hands above my head, and I'm just gonna float. And here we go. A little bit of a kick, belly button up. And as soon as I look forward and as soon as I lift my head, my legs sink. So it's really important that you focus on getting your belly button up. Now let's go ahead and put it all together, and we're gonna take our first stroke. We're gonna flip it back onto our stomach. And once you practice that and you focus, pushing a little bit further and a little bit further, eventually you're gonna be able to take that first stroke. So we're gonna be back on our stomach. I'm gonna start, again, putting my head all the way underwater. I'm gonna blow the bubbles out. I'm gonna push off with my hands above my head in a streamlined position, one hand over the other. And after I take that push, I'm gonna take my first stroke, but it starts with the kick. So let's go ahead and build it back up. So I'm gonna go 3 steps. Sink underwater, step 2, I'm gonna start kicking. Step 3, I take my stroke. So step 1, I'm just gonna hum, here we go. Very good. Step number 2, I'm gonna hum, and then I'm gonna push off and I'm gonna start kicking. Here we go. I've got my hum. Woo! Feels so good, we're so close. And now step number 3, we're gonna put it all together. I'm gonna sink underwater, I'm gonna blow bubbles, I'm gonna look down. And again, you can do this with goggles, but you don't need goggles. And I'm gonna start my kick, and I'm gonna take my first stroke. Here we go, let's put it all together. 1, 2, and 3. I'm gonna hum. Woo! I hope you guys saw that. I think I got a little bit out of camera, but you can see it's all just step 1, step 2, step 3, and practice, practice, practice will do it. So if you're just getting started, I believe in you, you can do it. Make sure you check out the channel for more swimming training and technique to help you get faster both in and out of the water. Thank you so much for joining in this session of How to Float Beginner Swimmer Tips. We'll catch you guys later. Happy swimming. Bye.